What's up, YouTube? This is TN bringing you another video. We are going to kind of clear up some questions that we got about our last video, which talked about our Atlas strategy in 3.1. There were a lot of comments, but a lot of positive comments as well. I just wanted to clear up some of those questions as well as questions that we get on stream. So let's just hop right into it. You can see here on our character, this is just a little show off. We are rocking our headhunter, still have a whole bunch of currency, and our map tabs are still going and flowing here. But I want to talk a little bit about the Atlas and some of the rules about the way that the maps drop, and clear up some kind of misinformation that's out there. So first things first, let me talk about some of the rules of the Atlas. So I kind of mentioned it when I gave the race course and terrace and shape shore example. But basically there's an adjacent map rule. So if you have an available map that's adjacent to your map, it's possible that it drops in your current map. This is why we shape the map, and that's why shaping is so powerful, is because when you shape the map, there are no adjacent maps of a higher tier next to it. So it can't drop an adjacent tier 15 in Vault, because there's just no tier 15 that's next to it. If we did shape Orchard, for example, then I guess it could, but we don't do that, and we don't do that on purpose. So yeah, that adjacent map pool can sometimes dilute the maps that you're getting. If you were running Spider Forest, for example, and you wanted to sustain Spider Forest by not having any T11s or T12s completed, you couldn't actually do that because Castle Ruins is always right next to Spider Forest. So that's just something that, Castle Ruins will always drop from Spider Forest. Also, there's something called the map restriction rule. And, I mentioned earlier that, if a map that would drop would be tier 11, for example, and you had, if you had your map completion bonus at 100, it would upgrade to a tier 12. That's true, except for it has to obey kind of map restriction rules of the monsters. So if you're in a T14 map and you kill a normal monster, the highest possible map that could drop from that normal monster is a tier 14. So that's regardless of your map completion bonus. It can still drop maps all the way down to tier 1, so you can drop anywhere from a tier 1 to a tier 14 map, but can't go beyond that, right? Your map completion bonus can't get around these rules of the Atlas. Magic and rare monsters can drop your current map tier +1, and the boss can do +2, which is why sometimes we get those Hydra or Chimera, Phoenix, or Minotaur maps from the boss of Vault. So yeah, just those map restriction rules, those exist, and no matter how good your map completion bonus is, it will obey that. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Elder and Shaper influence. You can see here we still have this kind of flip-flopping back and forth between Elder and Shaper. I didn't really mention this in the previous video, but it's really powerful to have Elder and Shaper. You do get extra mobs in there that helps with map sustain. And in our particular map, in a T14 Vault map, you actually get high item level bases, which can sell for currency as well. When I was showing off the exalts in the previous video and all the currency we were making, that wasn't all from just turning in the div cards. That was actually from selling items and selling maps that we were getting as well. And I think for that reason, we're actually going to mess around with our Atlas a little bit. And we're actually going to unshape all of our T12s. And so I'll do this kind of live in the YouTube video here. And in order to make it to where we only get shaped dunes as just for money, just for returns, it's going to mess up some of our Sextant blocks here. So you can see here on our Torture Chamber, we've blocked Onslaught, and our Summit, we've blocked map quality. But yeah, we're gonna remove all of our T12s, and you'll see those Sextant blocks kind of disappear. But I think it'll be worth it because all of the tier 12 maps that we're going to be getting will be dunes, and they'll be worth a lot. I also got questions about, what are good Sextants and what are bad Sextants. So, the bad ones are ones that don't give monsters or don't do anything in particular. So Slipstreams, Onslaught, Curses. I just use common sense here. Damage while stationary. There's just ones that don't add monsters to the map. The good ones are ones that add monsters to the map. There are some ones that are not intuitive. So like unique monsters drop corrupted items, or Nemesis monsters drop extra currency items. Those are ones that don't sound like they might be good, but they are good. And you know, when those happen, you definitely want to make sure that you are taking advantage of those by running your high quantity maps. And actually, I'll take this time to roll some maps right now. So we've just got through with a session where we ran a whole bunch of maps. So we're gonna go quality 20 here. And you can see all these maps that already have quality 20. And we have a whole bunch of maps that we haven't ran basically, and we're gonna chisel these up. And you guys are gonna see how I kind of like roll my maps. So right now they're all low quality, but they're all white maps. And we'll go ahead and chisel these all up. And you guys can see it's gonna be kind of a long process. Probably should have done it kind of ahead of time for the YouTube video. But you guys can see it here. So, oops, that one's already corrupted. Whoops. I guess we had a corrupted yellow map somewhere in there. And yeah, corrupting is something I actually want to talk about too. I actually really like valing maps, and that is because well, let me explain why valing is good. So valing can produce unID'd maps. So there's a lot of different things that can happen when you val a map. Basically, you can get, we're gonna check for reflect before we val it. That's physical reflect, this is elemental, and this is elemental. So we'll just keep these off to the side. I like to put these up into the corner because I can run them when I get the cannot reflect mod on them. So let's go ahead and val the non-corrupted ones. But yeah, basically when you val maps, a lot of different things can happen. You can get, it can upgrade a tier, and so that's probably going to happen here. You guys are going to see some shaped orchards that we corrupt into. A lot of times we'll get unID'd ones, and those unID'd ones are powerful because there's a sextant that gives you extra quantity and extra pack size when the map is unID'd. So here you can see, wow, we actually got a bunch of orchards, which isn't great for us. These sell for less than shaped vaults because vaults are so popular. You can't really apply that many sextants to shaped orchard, but I feel like the value that you lose out on by getting the shaped orchards is made up for these unID'd maps here. So you guys can see these unID'd corrupted maps. And remember, this one's reflect, so we'll keep that one near the top. So yeah, we have all these unID'd corrupted maps, which we'll run when we get those unID'd sextants. And then also some other things can happen when you corrupt it. So like sometimes you'll get like 8 mods on the map, like this particular one. And when there's more mods on there, you basically get more pack size and more quantity. So typically, you know, if you guys are just alking going or chiseling and alking, you might only see like 70 or 80 quant on your maps. But when you corrupt and you get a whole bunch, you know, you can get quantity up to 127, you know, much higher quantity. So it's a lot more value that way. On top of the fact that you get these unID'd maps, which are just excellent. You know, to address some other questions we got, you know, I've had a lot of people say, hey, the strategy is not working. I ran 3 maps, I ran 30 maps or whatever. I'm not seeing the returns on it. And you know, I don't want to get into the math too much, but basically there's a huge initial investment that it takes to set up all of these sextants, right? Like these red maps, these yellow maps, and these white maps that we've blocked out bad ones on. It could take you several exalts to do it. If you want to unshape maps, and here I'll actually unshape my T12s right now. You guys can see it. We're going to be doing the cartographer seal here. We need to unshape, I think, 7 maps. Or 9 maps rather. So we're gonna get 9 of these. I'll actually show you guys what it looks like. So when you sell this, it takes 3 red sextants and a white one, and you get one of these master cartographer seals. But we're gonna sell a lot to get 9 of these master cartographer seals. And what's gonna happen here is our map completion bonus is gonna go down when we take these 12s out. let me make sure I do all the right 12s here. So Summit's gone, Map Completion goes out, Racecourse is gone, Castle Ruins bye-bye, Defiled Cathedral bye-bye, Crystal Ore, Villa, Overgrown, and that's it. So we've now unshaped all of our T12s except for unique maps. So we still have Death and Taxes, Actions Nightmare, Obuz Cursed Trove. But our only T12 is now shaped dunes, and we're just doing this because of profit. We just basically want to get shaped dunes in there. And you can see our map completion bonus went from 135 to 126. It's just a good way to get a little bit more out of your maps. I think it's worth the 9 maps that we spent. We also just spent 27 red sextants, right? So it's very expensive to get this all set up. And if you're a newer player and you don't have a lot of currency, I don't recommend doing this kind of stuff. It can be really bad for you in terms of, you know, you're not going to see the returns on what you're doing unless you're running tons and tons of maps. And, you know, shout out to all my Twitch viewers, followers, subscribers. You guys have seen me kind of just jamming vaults for the better part of a couple weeks now. We've had a little bit of fun, leveled up some other characters, but you know, for the most part, it's just been farming these vaults. We're being really careful to just kind of keep the Elder and Shaper influence here. One of my viewers actually had it to where the Elder spawned on here, and as long as you don't kill the Guardians, it's always going to be Elder. That's pretty much the optimal scenario, but we don't have that set up, and we had to kind of finagle getting the Elder over here, and it's sometimes the Elder doesn't cooperate, or he'll go too far and then it won't be covered. It won't be influenced by the Elder or the Shaper, and so we go out and we run a Shaped Shore. And I had a lot of questions about, okay, why Shaped Shore T13, and why didn't you just do all of T13s? That's possible, you can do that, but the other T13s, similar to like all the T12s that we just unshaped, they don't sell for that much, but these shaped maps do. People really like running shaped dunes and shaped shore, so that's why we're just keeping these as our only maps for profit. And also it's a fail-safe, so if you run out of T14s, you can run these T13s, and because of that map completion bonus stuff that I talked about earlier, you can get shaped vaults from your T13. I know this was another long video, and I'm sure there will be more questions, so feel free to leave those in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.